My name is Rachel. I'm 37 years old, living in Atlanta, Georgia, where the skyline is built by people like me, people who crunch numbers, balance budgets, and keep empires standing. But if you looked at me, the first thing you'd notice isn't my sharp mind or the billions I helped move through Brooks Construction. No, the first thing you'd notice is my body. I've been plus size my whole life, and in this family, that's not something you're allowed to forget. I married Lucas, the heir everyone assumed would take over the company. He was born with the Brooks name, the silver spoon, the perfect smile. Me, I brought the spreadsheets, the discipline, the late nights at the office. For years, I thought we balanced each other out. Until one evening, sprawled on our condo couch, Lucas smirked and said quietly, almost casually, "You know, Rachel, a real CEO can't have a wife like you. You don't fit the picture." It wasn't just a comment. It was a dagger. The man who promised to love me was now body-shaming me, using my weight as proof I didn't belong, not in his life, not in his company. I swallowed the hurt, but in that silence, something inside me snapped awake. Because while Lucas was busy playing the role of heir, his father Victor, the founder, was watching me. He saw the way I cut through numbers, the way I turned losses into growth. One morning, he leaned across his oak desk, eyes sharp as steel, and said, "Rachel, this company needs you, not him." That's where it all began. The betrayal from my own husband, the whispers behind boardroom doors, and the war that would rip this family apart. Before we dive deeper into how I turned their shaming into my revenge, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Because trust me, what comes next you won't want to miss. At first, I thought I could drown out the noise by working harder. In every board meeting, I showed up prepared, my notes neat, my numbers sharper than anyone else's. When the finance team stumbled over projections, I filled the gaps. When suppliers tried to edge up their rates, I locked them down with airtight contracts. Even the old men on the board, those who once looked at me like I didn't belong, started to turn to me before they turned to Lucas. But Lucas noticed too, and he didn't like it. One evening, right before a company gala, I slipped into a navy dress that hugged my curves. I was proud of it. Professional, elegant, strong. Lucas took one look at me, then at the mirror, and scoffed. "Rachel, are you really going to wear that? You don't exactly fit the brand image we're going for." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. And once he started, he didn't stop. In meetings, he'd joke about how the boardroom chairs were getting smaller, his smirk making sure everyone knew who he meant. Once, when we got stuck in the elevator together, he chuckled. "Good thing it held, huh?" That wasn't just a husband teasing, it was humiliation. Public, calculated, and it wasn't only me who noticed. Jonas, our HR director, quietly pulled me aside after one meeting. "Rachel," he said, voice low, "we've been getting anonymous complaints about body shaming, culture issues. I thought you should know." For a moment, shame burned through me, but then it hardened into something else, resolve. If Lucas wanted to play dirty, I'd make sure every word he threw at me was written down, every witness remembered. And then came Camila, my stepsister, always drawn to glitter, to power, to whatever man could promise her the next step up. She breezed into one of our corporate dinners like she owned the place, her laughter a little too loud, her compliments aimed directly at Lucas. "You look so polished, Lucas. A true leader," she purred before turning to me with a syrupy smile that dripped poison. "Rachel, you're brilliant with numbers, but don't you think the face of Brooks Construction should look the part?" That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about me anymore. Lucas's careless cruelty and Camilla's ambition were converging, and I had to be smarter, sharper, and 10 steps ahead. It happened on a Tuesday night. I came home late, still buzzing from a marathon negotiation that had saved the company millions. I thought Lucas would be proud he wasn't even in the room, but his name was still on the contract. Instead, I found him sitting in the living room, hands clasped, face pale in a way that made my stomach twist. "Rachel," he began, voice heavy, "we need to talk." My heart sank. He only used that tone when it was something bad. I braced myself. "Camilla's pregnant," he said, staring at the floor. "It's mine. And I want a divorce." The words hit me like steel to the chest. My stepsister. Pregnant. My husband. Divorce. I couldn't even breathe. But before I could gather my voice, he twisted the knife deeper. You know this, Rachel. A CEO can't have a wife like you. You don't fit the picture. Camila does. That was the moment the ground opened beneath me. The man I built my life with wasn't just betraying me. He was using my body, my weight, as justification to erase me. For a few seconds, I sat frozen rage and humiliation tangling inside me. But then something clicked. His cruelty wasn't just personal anymore. It was ammunition. Ammunition I could use. I excused myself quietly, retreating to our bedroom before the tears could fall in front of him. That night, staring at the city lights through the condo window, I let the grief wash over me. But instead of drowning, I started collecting. Every cutting remark, every joke about my body in boardrooms, every HR memo Jonas had flagged. Lucas thought my weight was my weakness. He had no idea it was about to become my weapon. I whispered to myself steady and clear. Fight fair. Fight smart. You're not just his wife. You're the woman running this empire. The next morning, I drove out to the Brooks estate, my chest tight but my mind razor sharp. The house stood like a fortress walls lined with the legacy of a man who built half the city. I knew this was where the real war would begin. Elaine greeted me first, her eyes bright, almost glowing. She didn't even let me sit before blurting, "So, a grandchild, finally Lucas is giving us an heir." Her excitement cut like glass. She didn't ask how I felt. She didn't care that this heir came from my own stepsister. All she saw was the continuation of the Brooks name. Before I could answer, Victor entered. He didn't smile. He simply studied me with those steel gray eyes, the same eyes that once sized up multi-million-dollar bids. "Rachel," he said, voice steady, "tell me everything." And so I did. I laid it out. Lucas's confession. Camila's claim the divorce. Elaine gasped, clutching her pearls, while Victor leaned back in his chair, unreadable. After a long silence, he said, "If Camila is carrying a Brooks child, we'll need proof. Documents. Medical confirmation. Nothing less." His tone was sharp, decisive. I nodded, sliding a folder across his desk. Inside wasn't proof of pregnancy, it was proof of something else. The condo lease. The official papers showing the penthouse Lucas and Camila thought they would rule from wasn't a Brooks family heirloom. It was company property owned outright by Brooks Construction, leased only at market rate. Elaine froze. Victor's eyes flicked down the page, then back up to me, and for the first time, a small smirk tugged at his mouth. Later that evening, Camila swept into the estate like she was already mistress of the house. Designer heels clicking on marble perfume flooding the air and that smug smile plastered across her face. She placed a manicured hand on her stomach and turned to me with mock sympathy. "Rachel, you should bow out gracefully. You don't belong in this family anymore. Not with your image. A company like Brooks deserves someone who looks the part." I didn't flinch. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Funny Camila. Because last I checked this house, this condo, this empire, it doesn't belong to Lucas. And it certainly doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the company. And the company doesn't take orders from liars." Her smile faltered just slightly. And in that crack, I saw my opening. The conference room at Brooks Construction had never felt colder. The Atlanta skyline glittered through the glass walls, but inside, the air was thick with tension. On one side of the table, Lucas and Camila, her lipstick perfect, his expression blank. On my side, Mia, my lawyer, sharp calm with a stack of documents that could cut deeper than any blade. I sat tall, heart-pounding, but face steady. Years of boardrooms had trained me for this moment. Mia spoke first. "Before we discuss division of property, we need to address conduct, specifically body shaming in the workplace." She slid forward a file. Inside printouts of Lucas's emails, screenshots of messages where he'd joked about my weight, and an HR memo signed by Jonas. Witness statements were attached, each one confirming the same culture of ridicule. Lucas shifted his jaw, tightening. Mia's voice was cool. "We're including a damages clause in the divorce, compensation for reputational harm, and termination under the company's code of ethics." If he wants to keep this simple, he'll agree. I watched his shoulders sag. That was strike one. Then came strike two. Property. Camilla leaned in smug. The condo is ours. Lucas inherited it. Rachel will have to move. Mia didn't even blink. She slid another document across the table. The penthouse is corporate-owned, market lease only. Rachel's approval as acting CEO is required for occupancy. Lucas, can you afford the monthly rate on your salary? For the first time, Lucas actually looked nervous. He muttered, "Not even close." Camilla's smile faltered. I caught her fingers tightening around her handbag. Mia leaned forward, eyes glinting. "So, the condo stays with Rachel's oversight. You're free to lease? If you can pay." Silence. Then I went in for the final blow. "And about the pregnancy." Camilla's straightened hand drifting to her stomach. "It's real," she said quickly. "You can't question that." Mia tapped the table. "Then provide certified medical proof." Camilla hesitated. "Too long." Then she fumbled a folded paper from her purse, an ultrasound printout with no name, no date. Mia raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, because we also have a bank statement." She slid it across. "A transfer from Camilla to a private clinic known for selling falsified documents." The color drained from Camilla's face. Victor seated silently at the end as board chairman finally spoke. His voice was steel. "Lucas, you're suspended. Effective immediately. And Camilla, get out of my company's house." It was done. In one sitting, their empire of lies collapsed. Lucas stripped of his position. Camilla exposed as a fraud. And me, still standing stronger than ever. When the dust finally settled, the silence in the Brooks estate was deafening. Elaine, once so eager for a grandchild, couldn't even look me in the eye. Her fantasy of a picture-perfect heir had vanished, and in its place was the reality she'd ignored. Lucas was weak, and Camilla was a fraud. Victor stood firm. He called me into his study one last time, slid a cup of coffee across the desk, and said simply, "Rachel, this company is yours to lead. You've earned it. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." That moment wasn't just validation, it was freedom. Lucas tried to crawl back. He showed up at my new apartment, his shoulders slumped, his voice almost breaking. "Maybe we can start over, Rachel. Maybe I can change." For a flicker of a second, I saw the man I once loved. But then I remembered the smirk, the body shaming, the betrayal. I didn't slam the door on him. I gave him conditions. Therapy. Accountability. Work, not entitlement. If he wanted to rebuild, he'd have to do it on his own. My life, my worth, my future. Those were mine to protect now. As for Camilla, she disappeared the way she arrived, chasing another illusion of wealth. Her laughter that once filled rooms with poison was gone, leaving only a lesson behind. Beauty fades, lies unravel, but character endures. And me, I still walk into those boardrooms, shoulders squared, curves and all. Every number I run, every project I greenlight is a reminder that competence has no dress size. My mother once told me numbers don't lie. She was right, and neither does the truth about who really belongs. The weight I carried all my life, the judgment, the whispers, the shame, it doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels like armor. If my story made you feel the sting of betrayal or the triumph of standing tall, hit that like button right now. Subscribe and share this video so more people can hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated because of how you look? Let's build a community where we fight back with dignity, not cruelty. And don't stop here. Click the next story because you deserve to see how justice gets served one betrayal at a time.